It's getting cold, folks. You know it, I know it, your mom knows it, everybody knows it. And so in this video, we're gonna go over some backpacking cold weather mistakes that beginners often make. Just about a week ago, I posted a video going over some cold weather backpacking sleeping tips. And in the comments, a bunch of you guys left even more tips and mistakes. And so I'm gonna be including some of the most commonly mentioned things in that last video's comment section in some of the points for this video as well. Many of the mistakes in this video I have personally made myself, especially when I was a beginner, but even sometimes when I should have definitely known better. Which brings me to this first mistake. When you're camping, when you're backpacking in cold weather, don't let your filter freeze. When I was on the Pacific Crest Trail this past summer, yeah, I did exactly that. I have a Sawyer Squeeze filter. I've been hiking with the Sawyer Squeeze forever, and I've always known that you're not supposed to let it freeze. The Sawyer Squeeze uses what's called hollow fiber tube technology, and a lot of other common backpacking filters use that technology as well. And what happens is when there's water inside the filter and that water freezes, I'm not an expert on it, but I guess it can form like cracks inside the filter or whatever, and that allows bacteria and essentially untreated water to filter through and end up in your bottle. And then you drink that water and you end up on the toilet for a day instead of out in nature enjoying the hiking trails. But like I said, when I was near Mammoth Lakes on my PCT through hike, I was like, it's not gonna get that cold, it's just the Sierras, like it's not that cold. And sure enough, I woke up one morning, filter was frozen.
See that ice inside my Sawyer? Yeah, that's not something you want to see, because that means it froze, which means it won't work anymore, which sucks. God damn it.
Fortunately for me, I was only like 3 miles from the town of Mammoth Lakes, so I had enough water to just hike that 3 miles without having to filter anything. But if I had been in the middle of a resupply stretch, like a long stretch of trail, dude, I would have been more screwed than your mom was when she came over last night. So don't be dumb, take your filter, put it in a Ziploc bag or something like that, stick it into the foot box of your sleeping bag anytime you think it's gonna even be close to freezing, and you will be just fine. This next cold weather backpacking mistake is one that was in the comments a lot from my last video. And this mistake is camping in valleys or ravines when it's really, really cold. You're not gonna wanna do that. And the reason is because, well, as we were taught in like 2nd grade science class, hopefully, hot air rises, cold air sinks. That's about the extent of my scientific knowledge, but we all know this. And so what can happen is you camp down in like a really low valley. You might think, oh, like I want to camp at low elevation, which is true. It will be warmer at low elevation, but if you go all the way to the bottom of like a valley or a ravine, yeah, that cold air is going to congregate there and you're going to be pretty cold. I've also noticed this anecdotally, I will admit, near like rivers. Like sometimes when you camp near like right next to a river, then it can be a lot colder than if you even just go out like 30 yards or something away from the riverbank. It can be a lot warmer there. So just keep that in mind. Stay out of those ravines, dude. What are you doing in those ravines? This next cold weather backpacking mistake is a huge one, and this is not testing your gear before you take it out into really, really cold temperatures. And by testing, I mean something as simple as spending a night outside your house in your yard with your new sleeping bag just to make sure that it's gonna be warm enough. And I know that sounds ridiculous, like if you're at your house, you wanna sleep in your bed next to your wife or your mistress or whatever, but seriously, go test out your sleeping bag. Anything that's supposed to keep you warm at night, if you're planning on taking it for a cold backpacking trip, even your tent, you could say this about, go test it in your yard or test it in like a safe environment before you end up in the middle of the woods with it, relying on it to keep you warm, and you end up freezing your nuts off. We don't want frozen nuts. We've talked about this before. Not only will it ensure that your gear is going to be good for the temperatures you're going out in, but it will also give you some peace of mind. I don't know about you guys, I mentioned this in the last video, but when I'm going out and I know the temperatures are going to be getting really cold, I get like kind of stressed out. Even though I've used all my gear in these exact temperatures, I always get stressed out that I'm not going to be warm enough at night. And so going out and testing your gear, even just in your backyard before you actually go out and use it in the field when it's going to be cold, is going to give you some peace of mind, and it's going to keep you safe and keep you warm. Keep those nuts warm. This next one also comes from the comment section on my last video. This is a hard one to resist. Trust me, I know. When you're sleeping in the middle of the night and you wake up and you got to take a piss, go take that piss. Don't hold that piss inside of you. Not only is it just uncomfortable, but a lot of people pointed out in the comments, and again, I'm no scientist, but it makes sense to me. When you're holding a bunch of piss and urine inside of your body when you're sleeping, your body is using energy and using heat to keep your piss warm, because as we all know, anytime you pee on yourself, it's always warm. So get up. I know it sucks. I know you don't want to get out of your warm bag. I know you're going to lose some heat by just doing that. So ideally, you find a way to not have to pee at all. But if you have to pee, get out, and go do it. Because if you don't, like I said, it's actually gonna make you colder because your body is using all that energy to keep your pee warm, and that's gonna lower your body temperature. We don't want that. Again, we gotta keep our nuts warm. This next mistake is not checking out the Patreon, patreon.com/KyleHatesHiking. Lately, I've been going super hard on Patreon. I'm revamping it, and I'm starting to put up some bonus content on there, like this video of an unfinished ultralight wrap that Flossie and I made a few years ago.
20 miles, 30 miles non-stop. Meanwhile, you in your camp chair, chilling in your crotch.
Patreon's the best way to support this content if you watch my videos a lot. Okay, let's get into the actual next mistake. Folks, this is a big one. This one took me forever to learn. This one has less to do with camping and more to do with when you're actually hiking. And this mistake is letting yourself get sweaty. And now listen, some of us are just sweaty motherfuckers, to just put it bluntly. I'm one of those people. This is something, like I said, that I've had a hard time with in the past. But when it's cold out, try not to let yourself sweat. So if you're hiking uphill and you're carrying a heavy ass backpack because you got a bunch of your winter or like your warm stuff and you're just working really hard, take off layers. Even if you have to get down to like a t-shirt maybe, like I don't know, like do whatever you have to do to prevent your body from sweating. And the reason I think it took me so long to like figure this out is because that seems so counterintuitive, especially if it's like the middle of the winter. Like why would you just have a t-shirt on? It just feels wrong. Even if you're sweating, it just feels wrong to only have a t-shirt on. But seriously, in the long run, it's gonna keep you a lot warmer than if you have all your layers on and then you're really hot and you're sweating a lot when you're hiking, and then you stop and guess what? You're wet. Just like you're... So when I'm hiking and it's really cold, I try to strip down to as little amount of clothing as I possibly can, sometimes just like a Speedo or something. And then once I stop, I put all that stuff back on, hopefully before I start to cool down. Don't sweat, man. Just don't do it. Just don't sweat it. This next mistake is a classic beginner cold weather mistake. And this is bringing a sleeping bag that is rated to the exact temperature or right around the temperature that you're planning on sleeping in at night. And I understand this one. You might think, okay, it's gonna be 30 degrees tonight. So I have a 30-degree sleeping bag. That's perfect, right? Like they match up. It's perfect. It's not perfect. You're gonna be cold, dude. Those temperature ratings on sleeping bags, first of all, they're kind of subjective. Like they can kind of vary from brand to brand, but overall, those ratings are meant to be like you will not die at this temperature rating. Again, some brands are better about this than others, but if it's gonna be 30 degrees, I would not want a 30-degree sleeping bag. Or if I had a 30-degree sleeping bag, I would want a lot of extra stuff to be sleeping with to add warmth to my sleeping system. Yes, you will survive at 30 degrees with a 30-degree sleeping bag, but you're gonna be shivering, you're gonna be cold, you're not gonna sleep for shit, and then you're gonna be a miserable human being, and all of your friends are gonna hate you, your wife's gonna divorce you, and you're gonna die alone. So make sure you get a sleeping bag or quilt with a temperature rating that is lower than what you're expecting to see, or use like a sleeping bag liner, use extra clothing, sleep in your jacket, you know, just do other things to keep you warm. This next one is also a classic beginner cold weather hiking, backpacking mistake, and this is one that I made, and I'm gonna tell a little quick story here. This mistake is wearing cotton. The saying cotton kills exists for a reason, because what happens is when cotton gets wet, it loses all of its insulating properties. So if you're hiking and it's cold out and you're wearing cotton and you're sweating, or you know, if there's snow, it's probably gonna get a little bit wet, maybe not soaked, but it might get kind of damp, and boom, all that warmth that would have been provided normally by the cotton, it's gone. It doesn't exist. You're fucked. Wear clothing that's actually meant for hiking in cold temperatures. I made this mistake when I was very young. I was 16. I went out hiking in November on the Long Trail in Vermont, and it didn't rain, it didn't snow, but there was a little bit of snow on the ground, and I was hiking in cotton pants like a freaking dummy. I was pretty okay for the day. My legs were getting kind of cold by the end of the hiking day, but then once I got to camp, I had like some bottom base layers I put on, but it wasn't much, and then I just had to wear my cotton pants over that, and the cotton pants were soaked from all the snow I was walking through. And as a result, I lost a lot of insulation that I really could have used that night, because it got down below 20 degrees, which at the time was probably the coldest I'd ever slept in. And not to mention I had a 30-degree sleeping bag, going back to my previous point, because I was a dummy. My pant legs literally froze solid because that's how wet they were. And so I was just freezing all night. It was very dangerous and very stupid. Don't wear cotton, but what you should do is subscribe to the channel, dude. If you've been watching these videos a lot, be sure to subscribe. If you like backpacking and hiking, be sure to subscribe, especially if you like it with a healthy dose of your mom jokes. Be safe out there and don't let cotton kill you.